Hello, everyone. We are going to talk about the full moon that is happening on July 29th in Aquarius. The sun has moved into Leo. I'm filming this on the 23rd, so it's at 0 degrees of Leo. So this full moon is happening at 6 degrees of Aquarius and 6 degrees of Leo. So it's in these early degrees. We're going to talk about why I'm coming on this early and giving you guys the update or the forecast, if you will, for the full moon, the energies that I read that are surrounding this full moon, and why everything is such a big deal at this time, and not like overly dramatic big deal, but hopefully you guys can starting to feel the change on the horizon. So I'm going to pause this real fast and pop up the zodiac behind me. So just a second. Okay, we are back, and you will see that I have this for July 29th. I got it at 9:52 in New Orleans. I'm going to move off to the side here. You're going to see the moon right here at 6 degrees of Aquarius. Mm, almost had it. You're going to see the sun right here at 6 degrees of Leo, and you'll notice that it's in exact conjunction with Jupiter, right? And that the moon down here is in a conjunction with Pluto and with Juno. And today is the 23rd, and I will tell you, Mercury is stationing today. Thank you, Jesus. So we'll be out of the Mercury retrograde. It'll still be in its shadow period, but we'll be okay, you guys. And then you will also see too, by this time, the nodes have changed signs. So the North Node will be in 29 degrees of Aquarius because the nodes start at 30 and move down. And then you'll see the South Node is at 29 degrees of Leo. And I will definitely do another video on the nodes, okay? Um, but till then, let's talk about this full moon. So when the moon is full, that is when she's directly opposite of the sun. And she's reflecting 100% of the sun's energy back to him, right, or back to the earth. And so this is a good time when we have these full moons. That is when we're our most psychic. But it is a good time to take a beat and see what's being illuminated. Okay, these full moons are here for us to see the big picture. Maybe see things that we weren't seeing before. And with this full moon in Aquarius, who is conjunct Pluto and Juno, this is definitely going to be talking about the way we see ourselves. Well, to me, it's definitely going to be talking about the way we see ourselves in relationship. What's interesting is Juno's at 3 degrees, right? And then Jupiter, who's in Leo, is at 6 degrees. And Juno and Jupiter are each other's consort. So Juno rules the moon, and she rules the calendar, and she rules time basically. And her consort is Jupiter, and here they are on opposite sides of the zodiac, and so it is pulling us into a place of balance. So we're going to be speaking about how we see ourselves, where we feel out of alignment, and I know I say that a lot, but it's going to start getting clearer as things move on with these energies. And it's almost like the energy is sort of like there's points where we just kind of wake up, and we're like, wait, why are we doing that like that? And it doesn't need to be mean or harsh, but it's definitely going to be a conversation. And that's going to come up too because Mars, that's at 21 degrees of Gemini, is squaring Venus, who's at 21 degrees of Virgo. In that Mars energy within us, remember, Mars has become a divine masculine. And so him being in Gemini is going to want some movement, okay? Because Mars likes to move. And then Gemini is mutable and it likes to think, right? And so this is a good time to see how we talk to ourselves in order to get us to move. Do we talk kindly to ourselves? Do we talk meanly to ourselves? Because Venus over here um, in Virgo is going to want to resolve some things, right? And so we talk about a lot of times Venus is a little bit of reserved when she's in Virgo. Um, I don't know, she could be wild ass as far as I'm concerned, honestly, because but it is about this idea of getting things resolved. So let's say that. So with this square with Mars, this is going to be a time of reflection, right? The moon's reflecting the sun. Mars and Venus, a time of reflection. How do we talk to ourselves, right? Because Gemini is communication, and Mercury, thank God, is now direct. Um, how do we talk to ourselves? How do we communicate to ourselves in order to get us moving, in order how to resolve issues, right? And how um, do we feel okay the way that we resolve things? Do we know our self-worth? And that's why we're resolving things, right? Venus is all those things. Our self-worth, Mars, you know, how do we move through this, right? What are we communicating to ourselves? But also, what are we listening to? It's going to come up like, and I've just seen examples of it now too. Like, what are we listening to in order to motivate us? What are we listening to in order to resolve something? What are we listening to and how we get our point across, right? um, this full moon in Aquarius is really going to start showing us the weak points, okay? Things that aren't logical, things that don't make sense. At one time, we're like again, and I talked about this a little bit when the video about the basket and everything at 4 degrees. And for some reason, for 5,000 years, it just seemed to make sense that we haven't kind of updated the zodiac, the wheel where things are in the sky. I don't know. That doesn't seem to make any sense at all because that was our compass, so we should be traveling with the stars. But we didn't. So now here we are. Now we're like, oh wait, now we got to integrate this, right? And even with that, because I see that integrating masculine and feminine energies more as we move on, as we do come into this realignment. Um, Mars, how are we talking to ourselves? And Virgo, how are we going to resolve this, right? But we're working on it. And the idea is to have patience, right? And Mars is a divine masculine, might not have had those patience before. It was like, go, if not now, when, right? And the idea is, okay, well, let's pump the brakes and see when, okay? Because this moon at 6 degrees and the sun at 6 degrees, right? Aquarius is fixed air and Leo is fixed fire. And these early degrees, which I think is also very beautiful because we are just coming into this age of Aquarius. And we will have a mini a full moon in Aquarius for the next 2,500 years, right? As we get to this age of Aquarius. Um, but this is it's sort of like almost a christening. Okay, here we are because it takes Jupiter, talking about Jupiter, but it takes Jupiter about a year in each sign. So the fact that he's back in Leo, um, from 12 years ago, right, conjunct the sun, what is it that we want to expand on when it comes to higher Leo qualities, right? Leo, to me, I think to others, like Leo rules the ego, but to me, he also rules our solar plexus. But Leo also rules our heart space. They talk about the heart of the lion, right? And so Leo rules the heart. So what is it that we want to expand? Because it's with Jupiter. Um, but also this idea of relationship because of the opposing Juno, right? Who's in Aquarius. And Jupiter, her consort, being in Leo, right? How do we rekindle these fires, right? How do we make them, how do we rekindle our desires, right? In life, when a lot of times, just, and it's not the idea that things seem boring, but it's like it's almost like the world is sort of taking out, when we think about like critical thinking and like the joy of reading a book, right? Or the joy of figuring something out, right? And like with I hate to take it, with AI and things like that, like it's almost like we've come out of that, But with this full moon, I think we're going to see this, right? We're going to start to see um, where we're lacking in critical thinking skills and how that is going to change as we move forward. I know this isn't a very sexy full moon, but a very important one. So, because we want to expand on the beautiful things that are Leo, where the sun is, where it's warming us up, like feeling good about ourselves, understanding how to come from that heart space, feeling safe, right? Feeling protected. Um, the moon, right? Our intuition, being safe with expanding our intuition, moving through like the way we feel because we're connected to that gut space. The idea that, and let me tell you this too, this Pluto and Jupiter opposition, okay, that is what people are, yeah, opposition, yeah, that is what people are talking about where things happen fast, okay, or big things change. And you know, the way that I see this though coming in is really the way we think because Aquarius is the mind. Aquarius is vibes, right? She's the water bearer. She brings in all the energy from the cosmos. She's pouring the waters, but she understands they need to be contained. Okay, so it is this idea about boundaries, bringing in what it is that we need to bring in. Out of that idea of Pisces, that age of Pisces, where it was just everything and everywhere, right? Everyone's emotions, everyone's a bleeding wound. We were in everyone's effing business, right? And these fixed signs of Aquarius and Leo want boundaries. They want structure. They want things to make sense in a sense. And you have to remember Pluto rules Scorpio, so you have that energy of fixed water in there, right? Which is transformation. Okay, so all these the energy of transformation, the energy of death, the energy of the cosmos coming in, that energy of Leo, fixed fire, inspiration, all coming in together, right? And now all the spotlight is going to be on that, and we're gonna look around and we're gonna see where it is that we've lost the inspiration. We lost the plot. I love when people say that. This has definitely lost the plot. Where we've lost the plot as Americans, right? Where we lost the plot as sisters, brothers, moms, aunts, uncles, just as human beings, right? Because the age of Aquarius is about the collect or about the individual and then the collective. And we've lost the plot on that. We've forgotten what it means to be okay being an individual and then seeing where it is, how we get along, how we move together, right? And being okay, what if that doesn't work, then that's okay. They can, live and let live. Jupiter rules Sagittarius, and Sagittarius at its highest vibe is live and let live. That works for you, cool. It doesn't hurt anyone. We're good, okay? Keep on keeping on, right? And then I'm going to keep doing what I do. So that energy as well is in there with Leo. And what's also, Saturn is faith. So it's this idea of bringing in faith, understanding things that we can't see. In with Pluto across too from the sun, in Pluto being the depths of the ocean, right? Well, it's way out there, right? It's in the depths of outer space, in the darkness, the void, in the water, so this idea of, because I'm thinking of Scorpio, um, who used to be ruled by Mars too, right? But Scorpios are fixed water signs. So you can think like the depth, everything comes, life has to have water. Um, and so if you think of the ocean, right? And then you think of the sun or Jupiter. To me, this is as above, so below. And really getting to understand that saying, as above, so below. What is below will come to the surface, and what is the surface will come down to what is below. And like understanding how that works. And it doesn't have to be exactly cyclical, but it's understanding that things have to be healed below and above, right? And this transformation has to happen. Transmutation has to happen. There's going to be things in our lives that we need to allow to heal. And I think a lot of this too, with this full moon, is really going to highlight what it is that needs to heal, so we can move forward with our lives. Or we're going to notice things that transmute so we can move forward with our lives. Because again, I know I talk about the word alignment, and you know what's crazy, you guys? This person was on YouTube or Instagram, I can't remember, and they were like, I hate when people use the word alignment. And I was like, oh, what? I thought we all love the word alignment. So if you don't love the word alignment, let me know in the comments below, and let's talk about it because the idea of our masculine and feminine being in alignment, so we just are, I think is really important to me. And that's kind of how I read the zodiac, moving forward. So let me know about that. Because we do want to have as above, so below. We do want things illuminated. We want Juno and Jupiter, the consorts, right? Understand how to live in relation with each other and within the self, right? I know a lot of times, well, the masculine and feminine have been separated. And to me, this is the idea of them coming back together in harmony. And this is such a big change because of Pluto at 4 degrees, Neptune at 4 degrees, Uranus at 4 degrees. Jupiter was at 4 degrees. Um, Three-Eye Atlas visited all these planets. He went by Mars, he went by Venus, he went by Jupiter before that interstellar comet or whatever it was went flying back out into the universe. So they were, talking to each other. And then we had all these um, talking to each other. And now, the nodes have shifted. The nodes have shifted. Um, so the energy coming in is is big and it's strong and it is energy of change. And it is energy of revolution. But let me tell you something, like it's not the idea of like men in bayonets are going to come marching down the streets, but like if you have like a revolution or a aha moment within your heart and within yourself, that changes everything. If there's something that you've been struggling with, and all of a sudden it makes sense that you're like, holy hell, I think that's it. Oh my word. And then to help work on that and then it gets changed, changes everything. So allow the information to come in, allow the energy to change and understand this. This Pluto opposition with Jupiter, it happens within like a 10-degree orb. So it's not just going to like one and done. The full moon will happen and then the moon will keep moving on. But these other energies are going to be sticking around for a while. So let this opposition happen between Pluto and Jupiter. Let things get transmuted. Let things die, right? And when that happens, you can expand you can expand on the void, right? Because that is where creation lies. That is where the newness lies. And I don't mean to say I'm sorry, and I can't say, and then this is going to happen, and you're going to feel this and that, because there is just the mystery. Things happen. That's my favorite. Okay. But like things happen. So allow things to happen, allow things to go, allow yourself to be shown what it is that needs to change, allow yourself to communicate differently to you, notice how you communicate to yourself. Notice if you're saying, if we don't do this, everyone's going to die, right? Like all this fear talk. It is getting to a fever pitch, quite honestly, with all the fear, okay? And the hate and the vitriol, because you have to remember Jupiter in Leo, the bottom of that is narcissism, right? And not being in touch with yourself, not being in touch, like your ego's completely out of touch, So this is also going to highlight, I think, where other people might be swimming in that realm. And it's important for us to see it because if someone, a man or woman, you guys, but like if they're a narcissist and they're not in touch with as above, so below. Okay, then, Juno and Jupiter are not working together, right? The masculine and feminine aren't working together. The timing is off, okay? There is no alignment. Things aren't transmuting. Things aren't um, dying. It's literally carrying the same energy forward, which is going to have a hard time trying to do that because there's so much new energy on the planet. Jupiter is now in Leo. It hasn't been there for 2 years. I mean, for 12 years, new energy. The nodes have just changed signs. Okay, they stay there for 18 months, new energy. Um, Neptune and Saturn moving into Aries. Neptune's going to be there for 1 billion years. I'm not kidding. I'm not, I mean, it's not 1 billion years, but it's going to be there for a long time. Pluto is going to be in Aquarius. It's only at 4 degrees. It's going to be there for the next 18 years. Uranus has moved into Gemini. It's going to be there for 7 years. So all these outer planets have switched signs, new energy coming in. The nodes have switched, new energy coming in, full moon happening, okay, in Aquarius, in the age of Aquarius, when Jupiter has moved into Leo, right? So big energies, lots of energy coming in. Notice what you're thinking about, you guys. Notice, like if you are getting more telepathic, you're like, wait, I just thought about that and then that happened. That's going to be showing yourselves of being in alignment, okay? Notice where you're talking to yourself in fear. That's the past. Notice how you can talk to yourself now, the present, right? Virgo is the present. I know Virgo got caught in being too much of the future, but now she's back in the present. How can you talk to yourself in the present in order to make things move at the right time? Juno and Jupiter, right? The right speed, especially with Jupiter, because Jupiter wants to expand, right? But Juno down here pulling that, saying, okay, wait, we have to be in alignment to order for this to hit the right time. And right now, we are at the right time. Okay, let me see. What else do I want to talk about? The moon. I mean, the moon, let's see. I can't, she's squaring. I can't tell where this, like sextiling. I should have wrote this down first. I think I'll leave it at that. If the moon is sextiling um, Neptune, right, in Aries. Again, it's right up there with Pluto opposite um, Jupiter because and in Leo. Um, Aries, cardinal fire, Pisces, mutable air, mutable water. Okay, mutable water. Again, the depths. The idea about spirituality. Jupiter is about the idea of having faith. Okay, so it's cardinally starting to be planted in there as well, with this age of Aquarius, with the moon in Aquarius. So it's seeding our intuition, and then also it's being bounced back, right, to Jupiter and the sun, right, because Leo fixed fire. So that cardinal energy is helping this full moon as well as we come into this idea of working with faith, working with the mystery, working with the void, as above, so below. So lots of big things. And the fact too that she's sextiling Saturn, which is this idea again, bringing in boundaries as we move forward. Okay, we don't have to know it all right now, but we can allow ourselves to get it at the right time, Juno, in the right pace, right? Opposite Jupiter. Because Saturn is also Aquarius's ancient ruler. And in the age of Saturn, everyone really did understand those boundaries, right? Everyone really did understand this is as much as I can hold. And with that, it's a good pace. It keeps me at a good pace. It keeps me at a good rhythm, keeps me at a good time. And then again, Aries, cardinal fire, coming into that I am presence. This is where I am now, being present, staying in the present, which is helping our sweet, sweet Venus, who's resolving all this as she gets ready to leave Virgo. Okay. The trine with Uranus in Gemini and with Sedna. Sedna is the transformation. Sedna is the idea of complete transformation. Complete. And usually it's coming after, not usually, and it comes after a tragedy, betrayal, uh, especially from like the family. But the idea of this trining, okay, this trining doesn't mean that's happening now. What it means is that we're getting to that aha moment because of this trine with Uranus, who, by the way, rules Aquarius, seeing where the betrayals were, seeing how much we have transformed from that, being okay with maybe not making sense of it right now, seeing it come to light, right? But understanding, having faith that this is where we are in our healing journey, in our healing process, because we are coming into alignment with ourselves. We are healing that masculine and feminine energies with ourselves. So it doesn't have to be about, and also like, again, it doesn't have to be about knowing all the answers or finding all the answers, but the aha will bring in a lot of answers. We're like, shit, I never saw it that way. Oh my God, I didn't realize like that one experience really changed things in me, or the God damn, I watched that one movie when I was that age and I didn't realize how much that affected me. Um, and then, okay. Because again, Uranus, right, is lightning, right? The tower in the tarot. And again, but it's working in fixed energies, even though it's immutable Gemini, because it wants to talk about the past and the present, or in the past and the future, right? And the way we get to the future is staying present. So working with that and being like, that doesn't define me anymore. This is who I am now, and this is who I get to be moving forward, right? And working with your intuition on this and working with the moon on that, which is that divine feminine energy, is really a beautiful energy to have. I understand um, air and fire are these masculine signs, but it is this idea of bringing that masculinity back into divine masculine energy, which protects, right? Which has compassion, right? That feminine energy working with that healing. Okay. And again, it doesn't mean we go and find masculines to fulfill that in us. It's understanding we are that when we feel safe, when we feel protected, when we know we can create because we are in a safe space. All of that is that divine masculine energy. And when we start understanding that and we start speaking about it and we allow it to come back in on the planet, right, it is getting us out of that toxic masculine energy of might makes right. Only the strong survive. Um, Boys don't cry, men don't cry, all these things that were just all these things that okay, sorry about that. All these things that were um brought up by a patriarchal norms that are falling away. Um, we want these energies to come into these masculine signs to remind them of who they are and remind them of what they are and to remind us we're all connected. Um, and how beautiful that masculine energy is supposed to be, right? And it's also how it's supposed to be within us. When we start to be able to rely on ourselves and our feminine and masculine sides, sides, that changes the vibration, that changes our vibration, and that ripples out throughout the world, right? As above, so below, and through the oceans, right? Into the cosmos, okay? And then we can start to say, now I get it, right? Um, but we have to get there. We have to notice full moon in Aquarius what needs to change. And a lot of it has to come from our heart space. A lot of it has to come with what we're thinking, what we're hearing, and what we're communicating, right? Because Aquarius knows we have way more in common than we don't. Aquarius knows it's okay to be the individual, right? And it's okay to work with the collective. And we're really going to see that energy start coming on the planet. And the last thing I'm going to say, and then I'm going to end, is the idea of a lot of times when people talk about communities or people in general, it's like a big swath of the middle kind of gets overlooked, like like the regular regulars, and then it's always like this extreme on this side and this extreme gets, they're the only ones that get hurt. To me, the other thing this moon is signaling is the idea that the middle gets to get heard, right? The middle um, finally gets to have their time coming into the sun. Okay. The middle, you know, it's okay to be in the middle. What's that? Jimmy Eat World. In the middle, I guess I'm trying to think of. But the idea that it's okay, the consensus can start to have that voice again. Um, the masses, they already are speaking up and they can have their voice again. So big full moon, lots of energy. I know I covered a lot in this. So take your time with this. Um, I'm filming this on the 23rd. You're really going to start feeling these energies. Start paying attention on the 26th. The 29th is when it's at its height. And then the 30th, 31st, 1st is when it starts to go back out. Um, that's when it starts to wane. So then this next week, really start to notice what's coming in. Notice where your thoughts are changing. Notice where your heart is changing, and hopefully for the better. Bringing in good vibes to change for the better, um, and your thoughts for the better. And see where you can put in those boundaries that help you, right? See where you can start to feel excitement again, right? Fire and Leo, and see where you have had those ultimate transformations or where you need to have them, and be okay with that. And just know there's so much support to help us move forward. Okay, guys, I'm going to leave it at that. I hope you guys have a great rest of the week. If you have any questions, just feel free to reach out. You can always get in touch with me too through my website, Independence Street, independencestnola.com, on Instagram or here on YouTube. So it is exciting times, lots of new energy coming on the planet. So I'm really glad that we're here to do this together. All right, until next time.